And welcome back to Scavtalk, everyone. Today's episode, we're going to be discussing a potential topic that BSG is going to be looking into in regards to reworking Recoil in the future, per Nikita from the recent Tarkov TV cast, as well as a discussion on PvP. Is it bad? Does it need adjusting? We'll talk about that later. In addition, Therapist Global Tasks, we'll be discussing that, some of the changes on items and weight mechanics, and a couple bugs that have reappeared. So, Giga, how's Tarkov land?
Good. Tarkov is good. Tarkov is good. I'm kind of in that funny zone of I don't know. I'm kind of like making my way towards, I guess, Lightkeeper. I think it's kind of
Yeah.
become my sort of I've not done that before, so let's try and do that. It's quite different to Kappa actually in terms of what you have to do. Like a lot of the quests it's kind of like not the end quest, but the quest before it. In a lot of cases, like Punisher 5 you have to do, and like Tarkov Shooter 7, and you don't have to do Shooter Born and stuff like this. So it's more like it's actually relatively achievable to get to the quest line, and then the quest line is problematic. But I don't know. It'll whether we'll get to the end, we'll see. But
Yeah.
it's just kind of interesting to trundle along and like do stuff along the route that is interesting. It did mean we had to finish peacekeeping mission, which that was why I was trying to find those vertexes. So I think since last time, I think I was looking for the vertexes and did actually finally find them. I'm pretty cursed when it comes to finding items. It turns out, in general, like GPSA and MCC taking me like an all eternity, and then the vertexes also took me a good while. It took me a proper, I don't know, 3 full days of looking to find both of them. And I was like, I sort of had the back of my mind whether I was going to make a video and stuff, but like I literally only found 2, and I didn't find them very quickly. And it's like, I don't know whether it really justifies it, but there's one I found one in the Merin boot, the Merin car boot, and the last one was just like a crazy thing where we were playing and we were going to the chalet, the upper chalets on Lighthouse, and we ended up in PvP with a guy, and we killed him and took his stuff, and was like, okay, well, let's just leave. Like we've checked the other ones. I think we did like Merin and then like the Hillside House, and went up there, killed this guy. He had like good stuff, so we were like, fine, we'll just leave. We're like right next to Batter Shoreline. Left, got into the inventory, and I was like messing around with his magazines, being like, oh, look at this BP, and the whole of chat was just going Vertex, Vertex, but like wasn't reading it at that moment. And turned out he had one in his BlackRock, and I didn't even identify it until I didn't look inside until after he left, because I was literally right there. I was like, there's no point looking. So yeah, I was like looking somewhere else on the screen, and everyone was going crazy, and like the second Vertex was in there, so he must have. I don't know what he had in his secure. Who knows? Or maybe he didn't have. Maybe he found it, didn't have time to put it in. I'm not sure, but that's how we found the second one. So it ended up being a bit weird. But anyway, that allowed me to get on the peacekeeping mission, which you need for Lightkeeper, and I wanted to do anyway because I wanted access to that like Osprey class 5 thing,
Yeah.
piece of armor. Yeah, I think like I don't know. I kind of wanted to try it. It's like weird, right? 2 arms and a thorax, no stomach.
Weird.
It's a bit of a strange one, but it's quite cheap. It's like I think it ends up being about 160k, something like that in dollars. It seemed like a much better deal when you could do the info items thing more easily. A lot of people have cottoned onto the info. I mean, it hasn't helped that I've talked about it like multiple times, but lots of people have cottoned onto the info items thing. So, and also the exchange rate has been going back up because like rubles IRL have been getting weaker, and that reflects in Tarkov to some extent. And so you have to spend more rubles to get dollars in return. I mean, it doesn't make any difference most of the time because it means that the dollar price of these items actually ends up going down. But it kind of looks like it on the fleas, like you have to basically pay like 125 now or something, and the peacekeeper rate's like 135. So you can get lucky. But anyway, it makes it look like this stuff's got a bit more expensive. So maybe it's not as worth as it was before. But anyway, we did peacekeeping mission because that's the I just kind of want to do it. Like it's one of those tasks that people hate, and I just kind of don't mind to do. You have to go and kill scavs, and you have to go to each map, and it's interchange that's always the problem for me because finding the scavs, you end up running into random people, and it's just a pain. But I eventually got fed up with doing the interchange version because I know I'm going to be there a lot because I've got decontamination because you have to complete that as well. You need to have the respirator on. So I did that for some of the blueberry kills, but it's just like blueberry with the helmet and the armor and then the respirator. So you're just like all geared up in all this weird stuff to try and kill scouts on interchange. You need so many on that, and I'm going to be doing long line soon because I'm level 44. I'm like, man, I'm going to be spending a lot of time on this map. So got a bit fed up, and I actually ended up completing the interchange, which was the only one I had left. I ended up completing it offline last night while I was just like, there was a random like bit at the end of a bottle of a bottle of wine, and I just sat and I had a rosé, and I finished peacekeeping on my own in my room, just like listening to music and stuff. It was kind of, I don't know, it was sort of it was a spiritual experience, but yeah, that's kind of where we've got to in my life. It's all starting to go downhill, but oh man, what have you been up to? I've seen you've been playing a lot of Cycle. You've been playing a lot of Cycle.
Yeah, dude. 2 weeks nonstop, man. I'm fully hooked in. It's it's a lot of fun. I don't know, just having a blast, dude. It's
there's not much has changed, right? But what are you enjoying? Like just the change of pace, or the way the PvP feels? Or...
It was funny because the group I'm playing with, they've all played Tarkov before, and we were talking about Tarkov, and we were like, yeah. One of them was like, you know what Tarkov is? Tarkov is an abusive relationship. Like, it keeps saying it's gonna do better, but then it does. But you keep going back, and you're stuck in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
When he said that, I was like, oh my god, you're right. He's like, because I've heard that before, but now that I'm outside of the abusive relationship, I can now see clearly. So I thought that was hilarious. But yeah, I don't know. It's just the again, it's way more simplified, which isn't really a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, I guess my preference it can be, but and I have my issues of some of the simplicity, like the movement / shooting mechanics are very simplistic, so it kind of the PvP isn't like for me the high point of the game. It can be really fun. Like we went to so you remember the Bright Sands map, right? Like the starter map, because I don't think you ever played the other map.
I didn't play the others. No, I only played the main one. The first one.
It's now it's only a max of 12 players, and if you're in a 3-man, you will be matched up with 4 other teams, right? So
okay, so they've actually queued it off.
Yeah,
can you choose to play against like squads as a solo? Can you choose that?
I don't think so. I don't know. I'm gonna say no, but because I don't know what that option would be. But yeah, it's all like, which is also crazy because when I play solo, I'm like constantly amazed at how many people are just like friendly, like constantly. Like, and it's interesting too because you'll like hear guys voiping each other running up to you, and you're like, oh shit. And then like I want to be friendly because I don't really want to do a 2v1, you know what I mean? But like, you could, but it's just, and there's just like 3 guys doing their quests. I don't know, it's interesting, it's fun.
I quite like that. That's actually kind of interesting. You're like, these 2 guys have buddied up, and now you're like, oh, now I don't want to take them on really, so like I'm kind of incentivized to be friendly, otherwise they're gonna like run over me.
yeah It's but then see, the other part of that is sometimes you have quests where you got to kill players essentially, and so it's like, dude, there's been so many times where I shot a guy and he was like, please man, I'm just trying to plant this thing, if you kill me I'll go broke, please don't. I'm like, oh man, I guess I won't kill you.
That's rough.
But dude, the interactions have been great. I'm like, I don't know what it is, just like people are, maybe it's because everyone's solo, and so that has a lot to do with it. Like people want to be friendly, but it's so like weird coming from Tarkov. But anyways, back to my story. I'll be brief. We all needed like prospect kills, and I had to do like some menial task on that map, and we got into like this huge multi-squad team fight, and it was a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm really enjoying the PvE aspect because it's like, it just feels fair. It's all the mechanics are like super telegraphed. You know what I mean? And once you learn, like you remember the big, they're called, they're lovingly nicknamed Jeffs, but the big blue guys. It turns out you can jump and dodge their swipe attacks.
Okay.
You just have to do the right timing, and once you learn it, it's like, it's not like you're just gonna like animation bug out and like swipe you, so you know what I mean. So it feels very fair. So I really like that part of it, and yeah,
like a tiny fragment of Dark Souls or something.
Yeah, pretty well much. Yeah, like very simplified. Yeah, very simplified.
Interesting. I saw a clip of yours on Twitter with the pistol.
Yeah.
That made me laugh. That did make me laugh.
I've been having I might actually make a video because I got some footage where we were RPing as space cops.
Yeah, I know you're in this one. I think you're just like, I'm the sheriff of these parts. You got your pistol out, just like murdering people.
Dude,
Oh
it is
god.
so good. My buddy Salty Mayo, he was I was the sheriff, the other guy was the deputy, and then he was the android robot, and he was like everything he walked up to, he's like, threat detected. He just blasted full on. Threat eliminated. It's so funny, dude.
Oh, I love it. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I guess like so Tarkov Land, where are we up to? So they put out an update. We'll talk about game changes first as
Okay.
usual. Game changes. So they I actually did have the link up and I seem to have misplaced it. Maybe I've put it over here. Yes, I put it over on a different screen. So they, well, uncharacteristically, I guess, but characteristic of their new approach, they have told us what they've changed, which is very unusual. And they put a nice graphic and they've done two broad adjustments that they've told us about here, which was the backpack weight adjustments, indeed, and the weapon rarity and spawn chance adjustments. Yeah, and it's actually on the official Escape from Tarkov Twitter, at Tarkov, and there's like a nice table about what the weights were before and after. And it basically says, so adjusted base prices for a couple of items. I'm not sure what those were, to be honest. I think it was like keys and a few other things they changed. Oh, no, it does actually say it's the last stuff. Yeah, it's like keys. It's like check 15 was like 500k, now it's 1500, that kind of thing. I think, well, I don't know. I could speculate that maybe there were people, not logical and whoever were always going to be looking at these things and data mining or whatever. So they figured, well, we may as well just put it out ourselves. Like, what's the real harm? Adjusted the weights of backpacks to match their real life weights, which is, I don't know. I'm not really that sure about, like, yeah, fine, like rebalance the backpack weights, but I just don't really care about balancing them to the IRL weights. Like, what does it matter? What matters really, in my opinion, and I'm sure you probably agree with me, is what matters is like when they come in the progression, how much they are, how big they are in game, like how much space they have. That's really what matters.
You mean the stats that players look at, not whether or not
like
they're
the
one to one.
Real. Yeah, I think the things that are relevant in game, as opposed to like, oh, we're going to make the big standout is the Tasmanian Tiger Trooper 35 backpack, which is one of the biggest backpacks. That. I think is it the same size as an Attack 2? I think it is. I think it's like a 5x7. It's one of those bigger bags. It was already cheaper than the Attack 2 to start with. It was 4.2 kilos before, and it is now 1 kilogram.
It's crazy.
Which is insane, right?
Value, right?
It's lighter than an MBSS.
That's crazy.
So it's, I don't know, and that's, I mean, it doesn't matter that much. Ultimately, it doesn't matter that much, right? Like, are people going to pick that over the other things? Yeah, probably. Will the people not pick the ones that are 4 kilos? Probably. But ultimately, like, it's bags, right? Excuse me. Oh yeah, it's bags. Like, who really cares? It's like a bit of weight stuff here and there. It's not the end of the world, but I think it's the philosophy of that makes me question rather than anything else. And it's like, it's the picking and choosing of the realism thing. Like, I thought we'd got away from, like, maybe it's the community we have, but BSG maybe not. But we've kind of got away from the realism thing for the most part, right? And it's about the immersion aspect. It's not really about whether it stringently is as it is in real life. It's more about, does this make me feel immersed in the game? Does it feel, I guess it's like, does it feel realistic is kind of the thing. Does it feel real? Is there anything that breaks my immersion and makes me think like, oh, this is a super video game and I don't like it?
When I open up the in-game UI and I look at the inventory of my trooper and I hit the little UI that pops it up and it says kilograms, 4.2. I weighed my 1-to-1 backpack and it's definitely one. Yeah, it breaks the immersion. Yeah,
exactly. And there's so many things. It's like we seem to be at this stage where we're like pick and choose what's realistic and what's not. We say like, oh, this is 1-to-1 with IRL, that's great. And then these other things where we're like, we've got magic stims and level 51 strength and people like bunny hopping around all over the place and stuff. So it's like,
the thing
you kind of have to choose, but
BSG probably cares. And so that's like, I feel like there's probably a small group of people out there. I would imagine, that do look at this, things and be like, hey, that's not realistic. They should change it. Um,
Sure.
and maybe
They probably
that's,
are.
yeah. And maybe BSG feel the same about that, but it's just like, I don't know.
Maybe. I think that's the thing
their
for me. It's just like,
prerogative. So whatever.
exactly. Like they're not consistent about what they pick to
Well,
match to realism on. That's the thing.
that's a good point, because I actually didn't see, I didn't read the actual lines. I just looked at the infographics. Which, by the way, shout out to whoever did this infographics. I want more of this. This is so good. If it was you, Walker, you're awesome. Thank you. But yeah, the raid backpack, it used to be 3.5. Like, there was a lot of these that, like, the TAC 2 used to be. I'd have to look at the wiki change logs, but because they did the back weight change not too long ago on the backpacks, where they made them more heavier, or they changed stuff. I don't know, but
Was
anyway,
it weight, or was it just the hidden the stats thing? Because they added the stats, right? I'm intrigued now. So I have
let's just do a little investigation, shall we?
Yeah, so I have, because I wrote them all down, right? Because that's just what I do. I have the post changes. They did like 2 iterations of the changes, and the first set of changes didn't make any sense, and the second set of changes made more sense, because the MBSS was demolished your, or was it, which one was it? I think the sling and some of the others just completely demolished your ergo and your turn rate and all this stuff. So after that all went through, so I actually have written down still attack 2 6.12 kilos. SSH 6.36. So yeah, I think they were that heavy, and they made the soft stats better, like the tournament move rate, ergo, much better for after their initial application of such stats. But those weights had stayed the same until this thing, I believe.
Yeah, I'm going back through the wiki's logs, and like, look at the tech 2. It's 1.3 kilograms at the 3rd of February 2021.
Oh, was that a while back? Okay.
Yeah.
Did they make them much heavier then at some point?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a good way of. Okay, here's 5.1. That's March though. Let's go back a little bit more. January maybe. That's 5.1. December maybe. Try early December. 3.1. Yes. So December 25th maybe. Okay, so December 25th they changed it from 3.1 to 5.1 of 2021.
Okay. And then it somehow became 6.12 at some point, because that's what I have. But I don't know. They've been fiddling around with it and then decided, I don't know, we'll just weigh them all. Rather than continue to change them all, we'll just weigh them all and then put that in the game. How about that?
But don't they scan a lot of their assets? Like the technology where you take multiple camera shots of it, megapixels or whatever. Anyways,
I actually don't know. I can't remember.
That might be for mapping. Might be for those type of assets. But anyways,
I remember. I kind of remember that from the Road to Vostok video. Maybe that was how the guy was doing like certain like polls and stuff like that. Yeah. Anyway, so bags are different.
Yeah,
Tasmanian Tiger Trooper is the best bag in the game, and then they did this thing, which is weapon rarity and spawn chance adjustments. Now this is like reading the tea leaves or the arcane runes, as far as I'm concerned, because
yeah, right.
There's each weapon has got a before and after, and in the before there's 2 columns, and in the after there's 2 columns, and it's rarity and spawn chance are the 2 things. So some of them are okay because they're in the same spawn rate chance, which is fine. But where they've switched category from like rare to common or rare to super rare, it's not entirely clear exactly what the changes do. God, this tickly cough is a pain. It's such a pain.
Yeah, apologies to everyone. Me and Giga both have a bit of a cough and sniffles, so you have to bear with
mine's
us.
actually quite bad. Oh no. Just the worst timing. Oh god, it's just like toddleritis, constant kid sickness, but just the way. Anyway, so let's just pick a random one, like the ending one. The AS Val. That was in rarity rare before, with a spawn chance of 0.5, whatever that means. It is now in rarity super rare, with a spawn chance of 1. So the spawn chance has doubled, but it is in a different category now. So what exactly that has done, I can't tell. Nobody seemed to mention this in the comments or anything, and I just was like, does that mean there's more vowels or less vowels? I actually have no idea. And I don't think Logical commented on it either, to be honest. Not that it really matters, because this is basically weapon spawning in, I guess, stashes and moonshine and stuff, as well as, obviously weapons boxes. So I'm not sure, but it's a little bit strange. I mean, I guess you can probably infer, because the spawn chance on a lot of these things has gone up. So you're more likely to, in almost every case, so on the ones where it was rare before and it's now rare after, it was like, Glock pistol was 4 and now it's 8. RFB was 3 and now it's 8. 101 was 3 and now it's 8. And they're all in the rare category. But they might actually, that's not even true. The G36 was 8 and now it's 5. So some of them have gone different directions. Okay, so we actually can't infer from that what's happened to these rare guns. I just like, who, like, it does make you wonder, right? It's just like, who thought that the G36 was spawning too much in raid?
That's a tough question, Giga.
It's an extremely hard question. And the M1911, which went from rare 6 to rare 6.
Yeah, I don't know. Unfortunately, this stuff, it's like you said, it's like
reading the tea leaves, because it's like, the assumption that I'm making here, at least, is that rarity has some kind of modifier, and the spawn chance is also a modifier over whatever the base spawn chance is for various things, right? So who knows what these actually mean? Who knows what the scale for spawn chance is? Because the range goes from 0.5 to 15. So it's clearly not out of 10. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just to make things a bit more consistent. I don't know. I haven't really, like, basically what happened is I tried to make heads or tail of it, and then I quickly realized, like, I have no idea how this stuff works. You know what I mean? So it's like, why even bother? I didn't even notice the G36 one, which is interesting.
Yeah,
I mean,
I really don't. I really don't know.
Have you felt any of these changes?
No, because like I don't loot enough weapon boxes
That's
anyway.
True. You're not a looter.
And enough stashes, so I mean, I'm getting better. I'm getting a little bit better, but again, like, how many weapons boxes actually are there, right? Like, how many weapons boxes do you go and loot and you find guns in? I just don't feel like you find guns anywhere near often enough.
It's true.
And it's all about the ammo these days anyway. So I think upping the spawn rate of the guns really wouldn't matter that much. And especially, it's about the ammo, and then the guns themselves. A lot of it's about attachments. So
they're prepping for the future where traders sell less and get to find stuff in raid and open world, connect the maps. It's just, this is the groundwork for the future, Giga.
Exactly. So outside of that, we still have the flashlight bug. There appears that I think it's well. I've got lots of anecdotal experience. I've got just like the outpourings from chat while I'm playing. I can't tell because I'm solo, so I'm not sure. Some people saying they were playing in groups across the last couple of days and hadn't seen any at all. Other people had said that they had seen some instances of it. So the take that I can still chat down into is it seems to have gotten a little bit better with whatever technical fix they put in, but hasn't gone away completely. I don't know if that's actually true, but that is the distillation of the general community or my community telling me what they've been seeing. So we'll see about that. And then, sorry,
I was just saying, I've seen the same on like Twitter and stuff.
Yeah. And then there's a new bug in the trader menu, which is kind of annoying. And traders just like, sometimes they just simply will not buy items that they should buy and that they usually buy. And this went on Twitter. People put it out on Twitter, and I think Nice Guy actually confirmed, or I can't remember where it went actually. I think it was Twitter. Nice Guy confirmed that they're on it and that it is a bug. Someone's asking me the other day, like, "Oh, does Therapist just not buy defibs anymore?" And I was like, "I'm pretty sure she does." And then I can't remember what it was. It was a particular weapon. I think it was either a pistol or an SMG or something. I'd repaired it out of raid. The mechanic just would not buy it, and the only place I could sell it was Fens. And I was like, "Huh, this is weird." And then I saw, oh yeah, people are having this issue where the traders won't, they just randomly won't buy certain things, and it's kind of annoying. I wonder if it's something to do with sometimes if you're too quick, then that it still says the trader, the trader can't buy it, and you have to like back out and go back in a bit, back out, back in, and then it'll finally do it. That seemed to be more of a problem, I guess, like a year ago, where it doesn't seem to be so much of an issue now. But that definitely was a problem before. Maybe that's a continuation of that. I'm not entirely sure. So hopefully that gets fixed soon at some point. Then the only other sort of like in-game thing to discuss, I guess, is this like global event, this bandages event, which it's a bit of a strange one. We have to collect like 16 trillion thousand million billion bandages so that we can completely mummify Rigi. Everyone's assumed that it's Rigi, who's the person who needs these bandages. It's clearly tied in with the law, but then they started messing around with stuff, right? Where they took off the unlimited limit for bandages, and so they started running out. So obviously people couldn't really hand them in anymore, and the rate slowed down a lot. So then they took the limit back off, and then people could buy infinite amounts, and now people are sort of handing them in again. I don't know. There was some speculation that BSG were kind of like artificially, moving the count up because no one was actually really doing it. Because the thing is, right, the rewards were leaked by Logical because there's 6 in-game rewards with a question mark. If they're in-game with a question mark, it means there's something behind it, which means that you can data mine it or whatever. Those were leaked, but like, are those the real rewards? I know that Reach actually came out on Twitter and was just like, are these the real rewards? Because the thing is, the real reward for this stuff is probably more, well, generally speaking, is more like story-driven, lore-driven, moving on to the next part of the story, right? The reward's not just like, oh, am I going to get 12 matches or 1 GPU from this particular thing? It's more about the broader stuff. But I don't know. I think that because it's slightly boring, it's too they've shrouded it in too much mystery. So we've got a mystery patient who might die, but this, like, we don't know what's at stake. If the guy dies, like, do we care? And we're not told anything, right?
That's a good point.
And I think it's just the community's not bought in.
That is a really good analysis or insight, because anytime, storytelling, you always want stakes, so maybe they expect people to be really invested in the Rigi character. I'm not sure, so maybe that's the stake.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't even say it's Rigi, right? Like, there's the assumption that it is him.
Yeah, I guess you're right, but I mean, it's pretty. I mean, it's possible it's not Rigi, but he has got the balaclava. He had didn't he have the IKEA vest from the previous episode where Zarachi was introduced?
That's fine, but I mean, in the sort of the Tarkov quest line, it doesn't say anything about that, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I agree with you in the raid series. Yes, absolutely, 100%. But I mean more specifically, like this particular event with the quest from the therapist.
Quest ties this quest with the video, basically, is what you're saying.
Other than that, they coincidentally came out at the same time and he got injured. But like, it's Tarkov. There's people getting injured all the time. And who needs like 10 million bandages anyway? Like, the whole thing's just really weird.
I know.
And there's no time limit. And that's the thing. Like, we haven't been told like what's at stake, and like there's no time limit. And so, and we're already at a weird place with the community, right? They have to read the room a little bit and see that people may not be necessarily fully gung ho about this kind of thing. It's probably not the right time to rely on community goodwill. Well, let's say.
I just find it odd too that you would do it. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if the stakes were really high, people would be heavily motivated to do it. But at any rate, I just can't see myself sitting in my stash buying bandages and selling them, because you can only sell so many in the trader menu, and then you have to hit confirm and then do the next batch, and you have to click each individual one. Like, it's just a lot of like labor for what? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing about that is that because it's a quest, you can actually hand them all in. So you can buy them all, and then you can go to therapist. And
you can. Oh, that's right. I was thinking selling.
Yeah. Because it's not. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
So it's not actually too bad. But when I first went in, I was like, oh, I'll do like 1,000, and then it was just like space. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll do 200 space. I was like, oh, for God's sake, fine, I'll do like, I guess I'll do 50 twice. Like, it was just it was annoying because I couldn't even do 100 because of my stash, and I had stuff in there and whatever. So I was like, oh, this is actually just a pain. So yeah, I could see. But anyway, either which way, it was 10 million total. We've actually collected, as of right this minute, which is 9:40 p.m. UK time on Friday the 14th. We've collected 8.28 million. So we've actually only got 1.7 mil left. Like we're 83% of the way through.
Okay. Now is that
According to the
calculating?
counter.
Is that calculating BSG inflation?
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't actually matter. You know, so long as we get to the 10 million, then we're going to see what's next.
Yeah.
So hopefully we get over this hurdle because, like, I just, it's just a little bit boring, right? It's not that interesting a thing,
Mhm.
and I want to see the next thing. Well, a nice guy who said something interesting in his video, which I was like, oh, that could be kind of cool. But they should probably tell people before because that would be a good motivation. They should motivate with fear, and rather than
fear's a great
reward.
motivator.
Yeah, fear's a great motivator, especially in something like Tarkov. And it would be kind of like, you know, if you don't participate in this event, like you're going to be locked out of the next section or something. It would kind of suck if people aren't playing or people, you know, they're dabbling.
They're not playing.
I know, or they're not on, you know, they're not on Twitter all the time, or I don't know, whatever. Like I'm sure some people will be like, oh, but you know, I was on holiday or whatever, I couldn't do it, which kind of sucks. And you know, make it non-critical, but
at least people are motivated to do it and are excited about it. Because I saw a lot of people, you know, hating on the thing, and like it's, you know, it's unfortunate it got leaked, the rewards, but I mean, you know, the rewards were pretty ass at the same time, so I don't really.
Yeah, I can't remember what they were, right? So for anyone listening who didn't know what they were just like menial rubbish,
wine bottle, I think, was in there.
And like some HP rounds and an AK and stuff like that, right? It's like
6 army bandages.
Yeah, just like nondescript random junk,
Yeah,
you know, from the game. But I just don't think that that's the real motivator for doing this. It can't be. It's just a bizarre thing if it is. One thing that's actually kind of strange is that it's army bandages and normal bandages, but then the counter's just got one overall count. So it doesn't seem to matter. It seems like you can just buy one because it keeps track of personally of which type you hand in, but the overall count has just got one number. Whether that will matter, probably not, but we'll see. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that. We're kind of on track to finishing it this weekend, I suppose, either tomorrow or Sunday, and then we'll see what happens with the next piece. But yeah, I mean, there's some kind of like there's some interesting things with the whole like Rigi thing and the law. I actually did see a little snippet from, again, it was on a Nice Guy video, and I'd actually seen the YouTube video pop up, but I hadn't had time to watch it, from Shiner4, who's like one of the female streamers, and she'd put a video out actually noticing that there's a guy in the background of that the raid arena bit with Rigi where he gets shot, and when Tagilla comes past, there's like everyone's like cheering in the background, and there's this dude who's just like stood there, like not really doing anything, and Tagilla walks past, and the guy disappears. He's like not there. As soon as Tagilla's gone, he's not in the crowd anymore. And she linked him to Rigi's dad, who's shown in the flashback right at the beginning when he's talking to Chepushila and they're like loading the shotgun, and he actually looks kind of similar. And so the theory is that's like Rigi's dad or something, and that he like got, you know, kidnapped by a terror group, and that he kind of knows what's going on or whatever. Like pure speculation, but I was like, that's actually kind of cool. I didn't notice that, and like the guy like purposefully disappears, and he's different to the rest of the crowd, right? And just his body language and his emotions. It's kind of fun. So I'm like, that's actually that's kind of interesting. I like that, like a little touch like that not many people have noticed. I you know, props to them for that. Like little hidden things is kind of neat. So looking forward to finding out what that's about. Cool. Well, would you like to talk up next about the arena trailer? Because that actually feeds quite nicely into that.
Yeah.
Because I mentioned it last time, and I thought maybe I was having a fever dream. Because I couldn't remember whether I'd actually seen something or not. And I think, so the arena trailer, because it said arena trailer number 2, and I was like, oh, the number 2. But I think the first one was the one where, you know, they're standing outside the thing, and it goes like, doot, doot, and then the gates open, they all run in. I think, I think that's the first one from ages ago.
Yeah.
And so then this is the second one, which has got, you know, a whole bunch of different bits and pieces on it. And I pulled up a few screenshots myself just so I could remember exactly what was in them. And having a look at the different maps. So you end up, it looks like right now, I mean, I don't know whether they're going to have a different map, but it shows up, because it's quite short, this trailer. It shows up the 5 maps, because I couldn't actually hear what Nikita was saying on the Tarkov TV. about what they were. So there's air pit, which I imagine is supposed to be, I mean, airport. I don't know why it's called air pit on the thing. Maybe it's just like rough translation or whatever. So presumably that's the one that we've seen already, which is like, you know, the aircraft terminal or something. Equator, which is the hotel, and then Sawmill, which we did see on there, which I guess it's basically woods. And then there's two more. There's BayFive, and BayFive looks like it's probably going to be, well, where Rigi was, I guess, down by like the terminal location. And then there's another one called Bowl. And I don't
It's just a ball.
I don't really know what relates to what. It's a little bit confusing on some of them. But I feel like just kind of by process of elimination, I feel that, well, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm not. I don't know. I was thinking like Bowl might end up being customs, or maybe it's not. Maybe the one they've shown the shots of is BayFive, because yes, we've definitely seen Equator and we've definitely seen Air Pit, as it's called. And then the two locations that we actually get shown in the trailer, one of them is clearly Sawmill because it looks like woods, right? It basically is
Yeah.
woods. And so I don't know if this is actually from Contract Wars or not.
That was
I don't
my
know.
understanding. Is some of these are like inspired or reimaginations of some of the contract word maps.
Yeah.
That's what some people were saying.
Yeah, exactly. And that looks pretty cool. And then the other one that they've shown, and I started thinking about trying to place it. And I don't know whether this one's bold, but it looks kind of like, I guess it looks kind of like factory, but it's outside. So it looks kind of like customs to me. It looks like the sort of the factory end of the customs zone. And there's like a hangar. And interestingly, because there's a bunch of like factory sort of smokestack chimney towers, but there's also cranes as if we're near the port. So that could be BayFive. Actually, there's lots of containers, so maybe that's BayFive because there's actually a little icon on each of them. So Airpit has a picture of a plane. BayFive has like an anchor. So it's presumably the terminal kind of dock type thing, and the cranes there, and the fact there's loads of containers probably means that this is BayFive actually that they're showing in that. But it looks pretty cool. It's like Tarkov's answer to shipment probably from Call of Duty, and it looks neat. It's a lot of containers, but you can see streets in the background, and streets is kind of close, ish, which kind of gave me pause to thought because terminal is supposed to be all the way out the other side, down by shoreline. I don't know. I've got like conflicting thoughts on where these are actually located. Maybe it's a different port or something, or maybe I'm thinking about it too hard. I don't really know. But so far we've seen 4 of them, and we haven't. I guess we haven't seen Bowl then for making that interpretation. We've seen Airport and the Equator on the first trailer, Sawmill and BayFive on the second trailer. This one, and then Bowl is still remains to be seen. And it also looks like there's some different game modes in each one. Like they've got, what did they say they were called? There's TF and SD. And I can't
Yeah.
remember what you said they were. There was like a team fight, and the other one was oh god, I can't remember now. I'm not sure, but it looks like you can only do team fight on Sawmill. You can't do the other two. So I think team fight's the 5v5, and then the SD mode. Someone in chat will probably remind me as to what SD stands for. Yeah. Oh shit, is it SO? Yeah, I think it's shootout. Yeah, I think you're right, and it's that's three versus 3 and 2 versus 2.
1v1
And you can do that on any of the maps except for Sawmill, it seems. So yeah, I mean, it looks really neat. It looks really neat. You know, you've got a kill feed. We've seen a bit of the kind of like post kill replay as well, and it shows you who killed you with what and how much damage and that kind of thing. But one funny thing that I was thinking about Arena, I was like, I've been doing some investigation, and if anybody who's listening to this later, it'll already have appeared because it's coming out tomorrow. I'm doing some investigation into some more like bullet stuff, and this one's about shooting people with class 4 helmets on. And it's going to be interesting with Arena because you're going to get these like micro statistics on lots of little encounters. And so if the game mechanics replicate 1-to-1 between the base game and Arena, which I think they probably will to start with, we're actually going to see way more of like the weird idiosyncrasies and the bugs because we're going to notice it because we're going to see the stats. If you know what I mean. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, the deal is that if, say, you shoot somebody in the head
Mm-hmm.
and they're wearing a class 4 helmet and you're using PP and it's going to deal 33 damage or 32 damage, and you're going to go, what the hell? You know, whereas in a normal game of Tarkov, it's not really possible to know because you shot this scav over here and you shot at this guy
Oh, I see what you're
20 minutes
saying.
in and
Right,
then you died
right,
at the
right.
end and you don't know who it was,
Yes,
whatever. Like
yes.
this way, it's going to be this because I don't know how quick the rounds are going to be, but you might fight one guy and then die, and so you'll get the stats immediately on what he shot you with in what body part and how much damage you did. You'll know exactly how much damage you did to them, presumably from the post raid report. And so you get lots more of these like micro snapshots of what happens. And so I feel like some of these irregularities within the system, because yeah, tomorrow's video is about basically bullets that don't want out class 4, because I've been intrigued for ages to come up with a proper list, and it was kind of it was quite eye opening. But maybe we'll talk about it next week. But like those kind of things, I think they'll become more obvious with Arena actually, if the game mechanics are closer or close enough. We'll be able to see some of this stuff, and yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. But yeah, that was just like one random thing that I was thinking of. But yeah, so we've got all these presets too. Like I actually snapshotted a couple of the presets just to see because they went through a few. So there's they're in the team fight menu. They've got the preset selection with by various presets, and I'm presuming. Well, I don't know whether arena currency is cheap or not, but the presets are all like 50k in this one, which obviously in the base game doesn't really get you anything, but in this seems to be fine. And you've got various presets with assault, CQB, scout, marksman, and then favorites. I guess you can make your own. And they're kind of cool. You've got like the calm preset in marksman, which is 22.2 kilos and SVD with an RSH. A lot of them have RSH revolvers, which is quite funny. So you've got an SVD on that one with a razor, I think, and then there's the Squall Assault preset with a Ash 12, and then you've got the Cobra preset, which is like an AS Val and a shrimp. So yeah, it looks pretty neat. There's lots of different things. I'm interested to see what they do about the currency. Like, I think
Yeah,
that's one of the things that I'm just intrigued because if you look around the edges of the screen, there's like all these kind of like metrics. We're not really sure what they're going to do yet. Battle points and rank, number of matches, KD. Fascinating.
yeah.
Fascinating. I like looking at all that stuff beforehand and thinking like, oh, what are they actually going to, what are they going to do? How do you actually build these things? And yeah, it's funny. In the bottom left, you can actually see that they have the now current squad like buddy up system that we have in
Mm.
base Tarkov now. So that's who knows? Maybe that was made for Arena. Maybe they did that first and then thought, oh, that's working, so we'll roll that out into the main game. And like that's something that I don't ever really get to see or use because obviously I don't play solo, so I don't play with other people very much. But when I was doing the testing the other day, I used it for the first time, and I was like, oh, actually really good, actually really good. I never get the opportunity, and yeah, it's pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that. And so I guess you buy these presets, but presumably you can unlock individual guns and then build your own at some point.
I have no clue, Giga. I have no clue.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interpreting it that way because of the favorites at the end, and then there's also another button which is
I mean,
grayed
it
out called
could just be your
collection.
favorite presets, like presets. You know what I mean?
It could be, it could be, it could be, but yeah, we will see. We will see. It's gonna be interesting to see like how you earn your money, whether you can port some money over. There's also like, what's this funny thing at the bottom? There's like the thing it says it's like GLP score ratio, shootout versus team fight, 50%, 50%. Maybe that's where your score came from. I don't know. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's gonna be cool. Do you see yourself like jumping into arena and playing a bunch?
I mean, is the recoil going to be changed? Is my first immediate question because it just kind of like it all hinges on that, dude. It all hinges on that for me. I mean, there's like so many things like netcode.
Mm.
Some people are talking about like movement, like it should go back to like pre-inertia. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that, but at the same time, it just doesn't make a lot of sense for them to do that. Like, why would you have a separate mechanical game? Because it's literally the same game, just in a different package. I mean, you could see the same build number, like 0.13. Which I mean, hey, it's they can do what they want to do. People are gonna give them money, whatever. So yeah, I can't really see them doing that, but that's kind of just my biggest thing is like, is there gonna be? I mean, I hope there's gonna be matchmaking. Some type of like skill based matchmaking. I'll definitely try it, but I just don't. I don't know if it's gonna be anything of like value, depending on. You know what I mean? Like, is it gonna have all the same issues in Tarkov? That's kind of the biggest thing, right? So
yeah. So where's kind of your like? I quite enjoy pinning these down a little bit. Like, where's the biggest fish problem? So you mentioned Recoil like straight up, which yeah, is this just like the initial spray, like the way that they've balanced the stats, they auto control and all this stuff? Like that's the main one, right?
yeah, I mean, it's like, dude, you just can't use. I mean, you can use, but it's like really hard. Like I was editing a clip for Airwing's shorts, and he had a scav with a. I mean, granted, it had a no stock AK, so maybe this is a little. This actually might be a realistic case scenario, but the recoil, he had a drum mag, and a PMC was pushing him, and he just like mag dumped him. But like the first, I don't know, 15 shots, we'll say, was just like basically 80 degrees in the air. Like you can't. I don't even think you could like pull down and compensate. Like you can't even see what you're shooting at. Like it's ridiculous. But yeah, it's just like it's so like the MP7 is like such an egregious example because you full auto and it just like it goes up in a way and then it comes down. Like you might as well just forego your first 10 shots. But it's like it's so counterintuitive because you literally you want to full auto to get the essentially zero recoil. You just have the randomness part. But like if you single tap, you're just like gimping yourself. So yeah, I don't know. I just after playing Tarkov SPT and a realism mod where they like reworked the recoil to where instead it's like it's the inverse. The longer you full auto, the worse the recoil gets. It just makes so much more sense, dude. It's just like you can actually like single tap and it's like super accurate. Like you can single tap very fast if you want to. Yeah. So it's just
I think
like
that's how it works in squad, if I recall.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't played squad.
Yeah.
So that's just the biggest thing for me. Like after I played that and then going back to Tarkov, it's just like I don't have the patience or time to want to commit to learn each individual gun stats to mods, like how far I need to pull down based off the rate of fire, and then you gotta pull back up because they all kind of vary. Unless I wanted to like giga min max it and just use the same kit and gun over and over, but that's already like super boring. So that's a big one for me. Desync is always on the menu, and then audio is also always on the menu. I mean, I think 250 EMS is just kind of like not an industry standard. Like, I would wager it's probably like sub 100 MS. Is like a good industry standard. Maybe that's too generous, but that's like before calculating ping or anything. I don't know. But anyways,
yeah, that's fair. I think that's fair. I mean, let's hope. Let's hope that Arena's got a rebuilt base. Maybe this is kind of what Nikita's talking about. Who knows, right? If he says, we're rebuilding the base mechanics, like, oh, they were doing that for Arena anyway. So
this is the thing. Like, if they're gonna rework the code, I mean, I haven't. I'm unclear if he said, maybe you could clear this up, but did he said they're rewriting the entire game code or are they rewriting the net code?
I think it's certain aspects of it. I think it's not everything. I think it's like net code and some of the other stuff that's busted.
I mean, there could be like a foundational base they could rewrite, but I don't think they're gonna like rewrite everything for the sake of rewriting stuff. I
No.
mean, but anyway,
Exactly.
nonetheless, if they're looking to like improve, instead of working with old code, they want to like update it, and that updated code improves things. Like networking is probably on the list. Then yeah, that'd be really great. That'd be really great for Arena, and the game. So I mean, like,
Yeah.
when it comes out, I'll try it. But in general, I just don't know if it's something for me. Because the other aspect too is like if they don't have skill based matchmaking, it's like I don't want to go up against Timmy's, and then also I don't want to go up against I want to go with someone like at similar skill level as me, because that's like when it's the most challenging, in my opinion, anyways.
Yeah, I wonder whether it'll be a mixture. I'm sure. I feel like there must be some skill-based matchmaking
I would hope
involved
so.
somewhere alongside it, right? Because it's supposed to be esportsy, competitive, whatever. Like
Yeah.
it should be, and it'd be neat to then have those two things, right? You play Tarkov and you do whatever you want, and then you play Arena, and then it's like, okay, this is much more, like other games, but it's like the regular Arena shooter, but with Tarkov mechanics. It'd be, it could be the best of both. It could end up being the worst of everything. We're just gonna have to wait and see. But yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, is it really my sort of game? I don't know, but I'm definitely going to try it. It's going to be
I'm excited to try it.
Interesting to see. Man, I don't know. Yeah, so I guess like the Recoil thing is the most interesting part, right? Because Nikita has said specifically that he likes Recoil the way it is now, but lots of people have been talking for years about a Recoil rework, and there are some fundamental problems with it, which make it, the way it is right now. And as he said in his own words, he said it's all about the auto control.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about auto control. That's all it's about. That's the way the Tarkov's Recoil works, right? And it brings in these fundamental issues that we've talked about before, like burst fire not working at all, because the first couple of rounds have the absolute worst recoil, and it just makes it terrible to burst on anything. Like nobody uses burst fire at all in Tarkov. Like there's not many guns that do it, in fairness, but nobody ever uses it. It's like the 3-round burst MP5, and you've got the Vector, which does a 2-round. And I think is that it? Are there any other burst guns?
G36 technically is a burst mode.
Oh yeah, that's true. But nobody ever does it. And I was thinking, I was kind of talking about this the other day with chat about how it's just so weird, the system that we have right now, about how it's kind of like the second order control. It's like so bizarre, right? It's like, okay, well, the gun in most games, you fire it and then it just does its thing, and then the player has to control it. You kind of have like two models, I guess. You have one model where you fire the gun and then it moves up and moves your whole camera and everything up, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess you have the other model where it moves up, but then it comes back down again. And Tarkov's got this we've got this weird system where you fire and it moves up and comes back down again. But if you fire too much, the PMC starts to take control of the recoil completely outside of you and outside of the gun. So there's another player, or there's another entity in between you and the weapon.
Mm-hmm.
But because the PMC doesn't control the recoil properly, you then as the player have to do the second order control, which is you're compensating for the PMC's lack of compensation. So he doesn't compensate enough at the start, so you have to pull down a bunch, and then he compensates too much because you've already compensated, and now he started to compensate. So now you have to actually let your compensation off, which is why it's why you have to pull down and then push back up again slightly. It's like so bizarre.
Yes, you're correct, and I would say that how the system is presented, I think their expectation is for the user to not move their mouse, because if you aim center mass and you full auto, most guns will kind of level off at the head once that kick goes up and then that goes back down. And what I believe is, because we talked a little bit about this from last week podcast on the Tarkov TV cast that we did on the recap on that. So I may repeat myself a few things, but Nikita said that he liked the the system, which was surprising to me. But considering that, as you say, it's a very RPG system, in that you're playing the role, the PMC. He's got these stats that affect him. His gun reduces. He controls the gun. You know what I mean? You're controlling. It's like this hybrid action RPG thing going right. And back in the day, I think the system was okay. It was like a little wonky, and the reason why I say back in the day because the recoil was a lot lower in general, and the stats, the skills were did a lot more. So I actually think the system itself is kind of cool because it is like a physics based system, and I kind of dig it once I like got to like kind of understand it more how it works. But I think it would be more palatable if it were the recoil like across the board was just like drastically reduced. And yeah, that's kind of all you need to do. But people don't like that because then every gun's a laser beam, which I understand, but in my opinion, it's just kind of better for everyone. I mean, I just hate that like a stock AK is just so bad. Like it just feels like you gotta have X amount of mods on it for it to be like, moderately usable. It's pretty rough.
Yeah, we talked about this with our friend Numbers of Tarkov, right? In some ways, and I had a conversation again recently with somebody else about it in chat, and it was just a lot of people coming to the conclusion that it's the same argument from lots of different sides that the meta guns, the recoil is too low, the stock guns, the recoil is too high, and the attachments do too much, and really you need to bring the gap down. So the meta guns need to be not quite as good, or maybe just keep them the same, and the default guns need to be way better, but you need to nerf all of the attachments such that you end up in the same place with the meta guns, if that makes sense. That's kind of like, I don't know, that's kind of how it should be. I think it's just the problem is just the stock guns are so bad, and I get it. It's an RPG thing, right? That they want people to progress and yada yada. But
this is the thing: they've nerfed the RPG side so much. They've increased the recoil, so your auto compensation does less, and they nerfed the RPG stat bonuses that you get for leveling up recoil control. So like, we have this like heavily nerfed RPG side, but we still have the action side, which is like cranked up to the nines. Like it's not even that. I mean, it's a simple pattern. You gotta like pull down and then pull up, but it can be as you said, that gap is so wide, and you can only close it. You can't really close it that much by skills. You have to do this really long, tedious leveling up questing to put all these mods. I guess if you get the Robo Buff pad, that's a really good start and a decent muzzle break. That can really help a lot. But I don't know. It's just
No, it's very tricky. It's very tricky. There's lots of like chat talking about it now, just in general.
Sure.
Because I think people are like, they're speculating, they're interested in brainstorming and whatnot about like the way that it should be done and that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's tricky because I just don't know. It's hard to know without iterating through like a bunch of different systems. You kind of need to implement lots of different systems and just try it out how it feels, because nothing's going to be perfect the first time. You need to try like a few radical different systems to make it make sense. Like I don't think we're ever going to end up with a PUBG style recoil where every bullet you have to just continuously pull down on every gun. I don't think we're going to end up at that point. But something like what you were saying about SPT kind of makes sense, I guess. The thing is, we don't want to end up in a situation where, like it was previously, where things kind of felt balanced, but like a lot of guns just weren't used, and full auto was just so insane, and the meta guns just had like complete laser beam recoil, and everyone just run around just blasting everybody with that.
Well, yeah, therein lies a problem, is that because of how everything worked together, namely auto compensation, burst fire and single fire really just were inferior most of the time. I mean, single fire, you could definitely make a case for at like long distance, right?
Mm.
But then again, I mean, you could like full. Anyways, the point being is, if you turn it on its head, where you have to choose, because right now the you know so, I'm trying not to use the word superiority. All right, the superior one is pretty much full auto, and then beneath that you get like bursts in quotation marks, and then beneath that you got single fire. Did you flip it on its head, where single fire is like the way to go, bursts would be beneath that, and then full auto at the bottom. That way, like you have those choices to make based off distances. Like if full auto is like amazing up close, good at mid range, and like okay, or like maybe it's like meh at long range, then like why would you ever use any of the other options? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You're never gonna use bursts up close, but
exactly.
like you
Because that's
might
basically
use bursts up close if the full auto is like really bad. If you miss a bunch of shots, you can't just like bullet hose.
yeah, because that's how it used to be, right? And that's why the M4 was so busted before,
It
because
was
you could get to like crazy low recoil. Like, when you do the comparison of the things, it's like because the M4 takes so many different mods, and some of the mods are so powerful compared to the default gun, you can shave off some insane quantity. It's like 87% of the gun's recoil or something, right? So it gets lower from its base than most guns do. And then because of the way that the compensation worked and the recoil was just, the base recoil was super, super low. So the auto compensation didn't really even factor into it. Like the small amount of auto comp that you needed just brought it back into line, and it was almost a laser beam within the first few shots. And yeah, you could just full auto people on with a 4x, like no problem. And that was not the way, because then it's like, yeah, why use any other gun? I think actually Jesse had said this at one point. It's like, why use any other gun when it's the best at long range, it's the best at medium range, it's the best
yeah.
at short range, it's full auto, it's an assault rifle, it takes all the best ammo. Like, why use the sniper? Why use the DMR? Why use a pistol? Why use SMGs? Like, it's just usurps everything. So you don't want to end up in that situation. And it's hard building a system that feels good and then also doesn't incentivize these like meta choices to all just culminate with like one gun or one particular type of weapons. It's not really that straightforward, I don't think. But yeah, a system where single fire is very, very strong, and then the more you fire, like it's something to do with the volume of shots that you fire as to how the weapon becomes more uncontrollable, or something along those lines. Like that kind of makes sense, right? That kind of makes sense to me.
I mean, it's not the most realistic thing, right? I mean,
Mm.
um, sustained fire, you will sort of get you'll shooting at those individual shots, you will receive that force, and your shoulder will reset. It's maybe you could get into like a rhythm with your cadence on your shots to sort of like anticipate the force and counteract it. But like when it comes to like full auto, it's gonna push itself back, and then you're gonna feel it in your shoulder, and then you'll be able to lean into it, and you can really get a good uh hold onto the gun. At least that's how I'm understanding it. So it's not exactly the most realistic thing, but I think it'd be better than like your bloom. If you're like
Mm.
bloom, like your bullets just kind of like randomly going around. Like no, that's like way too unrealistic. And just have like the gun. Like oh man, I wish everyone could play Tarkov SP realism. It's because it's just like it's so hard to describe it. It's like I need to do a video. I've been mulling it over a lot more recently, but I haven't looked at the source code for it. And I might message the developer and see if he can answer a few questions. But it's because it is a mod. Like he has to work within the framework. I mean, yes, there is a plugin for Unity modding, so you can kind of like inject your own code. So there might be something with that there. I would imagine. So I don't know, but it still works within the framework. Anyways, I'll have to talk to him.
Yeah, exactly. Because that'll be really interesting to know, like precisely what did he do? Like
Yeah.
how does it feel? Why does it feel the way it does? Because I think like you're talking a little bit about realism, but it's interesting hearing people like Tower talking about recoil and stuff, and about how Tarkov has quite like a naive view of recoil in many ways. You know, like a lot of modern weapons, the whole, you know, gun go up burr is not. It's not really. I don't know. Like it's kind of a thing, but a lot of modern guns, you know, like those kind of effects are mitigated a lot.
Yeah.
And if you're looking through the scope, then it's more like, you know, it's like a shake, you know.
Like a
And
rat.
Towers
Yeah.
talked about this before. Yes, it's just like it goes off and like everything just and the reticle goes. You can't just like keep going like like non-stop because everything's shaking around. So it's more of like I don't know, like a nudge or a bump or something like that when you fire on a lot of these modern weapons. And it's interesting because in the video, you know, it's Tarkov going the wrong way and blah blah blah. The Veritas video that blew up, he's got, you know, that whole section about people saying like, "Oh, go and play Call of Duty," and you know, he shows the clips of COD. And I've said many times, I've quite liked COD. I'm actually quite. I don't play that much now, but you know, I've been a COD fan in the past for sure. And gunplay's always felt pretty good in those games. And the, you know, playing a bit of DMZ a while back when it was, you know, out and new, you're firing that, and that's kind of got that feel to it, right? It's got that like the bump feel to it. It's not. It doesn't necessarily feel like the recoil system is not perfect in that, but you know, it's got that feel to it that's different. It's not just like you fire and everything goes up in a vertical line, even the vector, even though it's not built that way. You know, all of this kind of stuff, and it's like, well, that's completely that's not realistic, and that doesn't even feel. Just feels kind of silly. You know, it feels like kind of naive and not really the right way to go about it. So
Well,
yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what your guys have actually done.
well, what I would say about that is, I think it actually does feel realistic, and I think what you mean to say is it looks unrealistic because what ends up happening is the game, like, you don't have that feedback loop without your center of your screen moving up, right? So like you shoot the gun in the video game, your screen moves up. You pull down to counteract that. That's like effectively you know, grabbing a tighter grip on the, you know, gun when you're shooting it. You know, so you sort of have like that feedback loop where you shoot the gun's like, oh, this thing's got recoil. You know, you shoot a really big gun, it's got a lot of recoil. You know, you get that loop there. That's kind of where Tarkov does it a little weird because like you see that initial kick and you like, oh, I got that feedback loop. I need to pull down, and then it starts pulling down really aggressively because the auto, your PMC just takes over. So it's like this weird disconnect halfway through.
Yeah, it's complicated. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do, but that'll be cool. If you do get that, it'd be interesting because I think if so long as it's not veiled within that way, I feel like the community at this point actually probably has the most power. I guess is that's the wrong word, but to actually influence what might happen because it's in the early stages of design, right? Nikita said himself he doesn't know exactly how they want to do it yet, and so
which scares me. For the record.
Yes, indeed. But if somebody puts together something coherent, I'm sure it would have an effect at least. You know?
And I would personally like to keep in a lot of the skills stuff, like make them relevant, but not to the point where people have insane, you know, sway over fights because they have level 50 SMG skills. You know, their SMGs are just like a laser beam across the map. You know what I mean? But something to be relevant there, because I like the idea of the RPG systems for sure.
Yeah, what could be interesting other than just like decreasing recoil? Because that's pretty boring, right?
I mean, you could do. I was gonna say you could. It honestly depends how you design the recoil system because you still could have something to do with the recoil, but maybe you could have it relevant to its subclass. Like, I don't know. You'd have to do a brainstorming session, but I would say initially you could do recoil, but it could be like a very minor thing, like your, I don't know, maybe your. Yeah, it's a tough one actually. The more I think about it, because if you do anything, it's just like a straight up, you know, effectively like a mod attachment on your gun. So it is kind of tough.
It is hard. It is hard. It's one of those things where it's like I'd quite like to like look into it a bit and think about it a bit more, but I'm not actually sure what the answer is. I don't know what the right answer is about it. Like I don't have a really strong opinion about like this is what the recoil system in Tarkov should look like. I don't know. Like we can look at the existing system and say, okay, well, that feature should be changed. Burst fire should be more effective. We don't want people to full auto. Da da da. But like, I don't feel like I necessarily have like the right framework in front of me or in my head to go. And here's the system that solves all these issues and makes it brilliant. Like I don't have that, and I don't really even have like I don't really have an idea in mind of what that might be, other than broadly speaking what we were talking about the
Right.
semi-auto and increasing full auto. So maybe it deserves a bit more thought. I'm not sure. I think that might be just like a lack of breadth in terms of games that I play personally. That's probably like one of my own downfalls because I haven't played that many, right? Because you're referencing SPT and there's like lots of other games that I've played my fair share, but I guess like not recently enough to come to mind. I'd need to actually go and have a look at a few different ones and just see like what feels good, what feels bad, what suits Tarkov, what would fit. Already starting to brainstorm it. I'm not sure if I want to get down this hole.
The other problem in the equation, in my opinion, is matchmaking. Because there is no matchmaking, at least that we know of, you get match of players with different gear, different attachments, and also different skill levels. So it makes that really sensitive. And if you have a really high skilled recoil system, like high skill in quotation marks, but in the likes of like old Rust, or I use old Rust as an example because it was just like an extremely fixed pattern with very little deviancy in the actual accuracy of the rifle you were shooting. Like the pattern was always fixed, but there was like slight deviancy, so you could like full auto people like 100 meters, 200 meters if you were like that insane, but you had to have the pattern down. Like, I mean, 200 meters was like, that guy is probably hacking, but there is some legit, but anyways, but that's kind of a problem if you don't have, like, you have to sit there and train. I mean, same's true for like CS or Valorant. You kind of need to learn the patterns of the guns. It helps, and it's a mechanical skill. You got to learn it. So if you don't have that matchmaking, that's kind of like a sore spot for players potentially. You know what I mean? Like, so that's kind of why I lean more towards something a bit more casual in quotation marks. I know we're all scared of that word, but I mean something a little bit more simplistic, where you don't need to necessarily spend an hour a day in Kovacs Tarkov edition mastering your AK spray. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Aim labs for those other people out there.
Yeah, because I feel like that's not really the point of Tarkov, is it? The point is not to sit there training your aim for 30 minutes before you jump into raid. People already have enough excuses to sit in the stash and not get into the game before having to go, I'm just going to go back to Tark Labs to go and train my aim again. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, man, I'm not sure.
That's kind of my fear. I don't think they would do that. I think they'll do like a hybrid where it's like basically like Call of Duty, where it like you said, it goes up, but it's random where it actually deviates. So you have to like adjust on the fly. But I don't even know, like, the depths of Call of Duty's recoil or like gun mechanics is like insane. I looked into it a little bit. It's just like,
oh yeah,
because it's like it would be like 60 damage flat at like 100 meters, and then as soon as you hit like 101, it starts going down like not smoothly, but like sharp, and and then once it hits like 120, it will now do 50 damage, and then there'll be like another threshold along the line. Like, there's
weird.
Yeah, it's like and then the recoil is like, there's recoil smoothness stat, there's like vertical recoil, there's so many, like, who knows what they got cooking underneath the hood.
That's true, actually. Like, that's probably a good model to look at, because I remember when I was playing a little bit of that and looking into the things, and I'm just like, man, I don't even know what these attachments do. And you've got things like aim stability and stuff like this whilst firing and things, and it's just like, how quickly does the crosshair? It's like how quickly does it not like even go back on target? It doesn't just jump, but it's like, how quickly does it stop like shaking around? Like, it's complicated. It's complicated. It's different. A different model. Not a naive model, and this is why I think it's actually all right. Like, it's honestly okay. It feels good views. This is the thing, right? No matter what people say about COD, it feels good. It feels quite good to use the guns in COD.
It was
Like,
very serviceable. Like, yep, this
time
is
to kill aside, but
yeah.
you decrease the time to kill a little bit, and
Mhm.
it would feel it's serviceable, as you say. It's serviceable. So if we broaden the discussion a little bit further, because PvP in general has been, I don't know, a topic that people have been talking about, and about like make PvP great again. There's like there's lots of different parts to it, right? There's about
Bring back
the
patch 11.13 now.
exactly. There's the whole side which I'm probably like less interested in, which is the profitability of PvP. I know people are always talking about, because you can't find people's gear in raid and sell it on the flea anymore. So it's like really cut the
Yeah.
profitability there. Like, I kind of get it, because and this it's unfortunate almost, because it's like tied together with like finding raid and stuff, right? You don't want people skipping the progression, and you want to be able to restrict the high end stuff, like we have seen, and it's made the game feel better. Yeah, it just has. We've tried the old system and it didn't really work. But the problem is PvP is unprofitable for that reason, because you can't sell the gear to other people. So it's like, okay, well, what
Yeah.
do you do? Do you either increase the base prices of the items to the traders, or do you do something which I'm actually kind of a fan of, and just like increase the dog tag purchase prices? Like, I wouldn't mind dog tags being worth quite a bit more. It's like, and it's still on a
Yeah.
level scaling thing. So people who are like low level, they're not worth that much. But people around your level, imagine if you got, I don't even know, 100k for every kill at someone who's like
The
level
only
30 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is that only works if you're killing high level players. It doesn't really make PvP worth it. It makes well, it does and it doesn't is what I'm trying to say. Because you could still have PvP, even good PvP, but they may only be level 20.
Yeah, yeah. This is true. This is true. But I guess like on balance, it'd be like, well, the higher reward for the higher players,
Yeah,
and it's like, and also it's just about generally increasing the profitability. And it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
for me, changing the dog tag price, it specifically does that. It's like, you kill the people, you're going to make more money, but the gear is still not on the fleet. You still can't sell it to other players. Like, the economy side is untouched. But that was kind of the PvP being less profitable was kind of a collateral damage thing. So, like, I don't think BSG really like were targeting making PvP less profitable. I think they were targeting the restriction of gear, right, to stop people from short circuiting
yeah,
the loop by getting to level 15 and then buying gear from people who got a labs card and went there and got Gen 4 fulls off the raiders in labs, and you could buy that level 15 and then go around stomping everybody. I think that's the issue, right? I mean, that's the most extreme case, but the other cases still exist. You find one, you sell it, or kill a player and you sell it. So everyone just has class 5 like super super fast. But I don't think that was necessarily the like, that wasn't a PvP problem, so to speak. It's like, it wasn't a problem with PvP. It's just PvP got downgraded because of this economic problem that needs to be solved. So I wouldn't be too against increasing these dog tag prices. I really wouldn't. There's another one. So there's another one that, like, I've seen a lot of people talk about, and it seems to have gone away a little bit. But then I saw Velian put out a post again about PvP and stuff, and that's like mainly where I'm referencing some of this from. And he wrote again about blunt damage in his Twitter post. And I'm just like, I've seen it so many times. I'm just not sure. Like, what do you think about blunt damage? Do you think it's too much? Do you think that it should be reduced? Like, there's a lot of people who think it should be made less. I'm just not sure.
I would say I'm not sure. I mean, I'm guessing they're going off anecdotal experiences. I mean, my experience, I really wouldn't say I feel like blunt damage is too much. I mean, but I don't really. This is one of the things, like, having empirical data would be really helpful to discussion. So
Yeah,
I can't really
exactly.
say, because I mean, like, if you're, this is kind of like a shitty thing to say, but like, um, it sounds like they're dying and they look at their death screen and they're dying to blunt damage, so then they want blunt damage to be reduced. That's kind of what it sounds like to me.
Kind of, yeah. I think,
Without having that empirical stuff, like, how much does it actually do, and what the cases are, because there's a lot of armors, there's a lot of ammo types. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the cases they are. I think there are some specific cases I think that maybe warrant
Okay.
discussion, but they are few and far between. Like I ran a few simulations myself to try and like figure it out, and I couldn't find that many like egregious examples of where it was like completely broken. There was a discussion at one point that I saw about M856A1 because somebody got shot in the head with the Tagilla mask, and you can be shot. I think it kind of depends, right? It depends on what happens, but you can be shot. I think on the fourth hit with 56A1, then you, I think you die anyway on that shot. Now I'm trying to remember whether the pen chance was super high at that point or not. I'm not sure, but either way, now the argument kind of broadly goes: if I never actually take a pen from a bullet and the armor did its job, should I die to blunt damage or not? And I think that's kind of the fundamental basis of the discussion. Is that a thing? You know, if you get shot 6 times with whatever BT into a Zabrallo, and I mean, that probably wouldn't kill you, but just for argument's sake, you know, and it never actually penned, the armor did its job and defended you, and you bought it on that basis. Like, should you die from that? I'm not sure. Like, cause I'm currently on the train. Like, I personally haven't seen a compelling case to say that blunt damage is too high and that
Right.
blunt damage should be reduced. But I've seen a lot of people who are good PvPers, and maybe it's what you said, right? Maybe they see that they died to blunt damage and think, I shouldn't really die to that. I want to die to a real pen.
Hmm.
Because there's like, it's complicated. There's ways that you die. There's ways that you die to blunt damage in unexpected ways. Like, you know, if you take a bunch of damage to a black limb, it splashes over and spills over onto the rest of your body, then your thorax has less HP. So then you can die in what seems like a surprisingly small number of blunt damage shots. Because, like, if you're only at 200 health out of 440 or whatever, your thorax is now at 50%. If it all went through one arm, your thorax is now at 50% HP, which is only 40 something. So two shots of, I don't know, like a couple of shots or something will kill you. It depends what it is, depends what the ammo is. And so I think like those things surprise people, and it's like, you know, is that just, should that really happen? Should the blunt damage be so high? But yeah, I'm still not fully convinced. So I was intrigued to see if you like had any situations where you died to it previously and thought like it was too much, or had spoken to other people who thought it was too high. But I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the only thing I could say is maybe it's relevant to what you were saying about how you have damaged parts. Like if someone, peppers you down and the killing blow is effectively blunt damage, I guess that's, like maybe the issue there is not necessarily blunt damage. Maybe the issue is kind of the other, how the black's damage system works. And I really don't know. I don't know what to
Yeah,
say.
because what's interesting, because that's actually one of the other points that was on Bell's on
Oh,
Twitter.
really? Are you
It
telling?
was.
Do headshots need to have more H? Do your head need to have more HP, guys? I don't know.
And he was just like, you know, maybe reducing the damage from collaterals. Now, it's like again, it's such a complicated one because, and I think there's another fundamental kind of argument that goes into a lot of this stuff, which is about time to kill, and it's complicated because part of the beauty of Tarkov is the time to kill is so low.
Yep.
It feels satisfying. It feels very like Tarkov is quite a satisfying game when you do actually kill people because they die very quickly. And if you catch people out of position, you know, you can just blink and you just headshot them. Like, it doesn't really happen in the cycle in the same way, right? It's usually like a big fight between two people. There's guns going off everywhere. It's like very arcadey. Whereas Tarkov is much more, everybody's a glass cannon. And the strange thing about this is that, I mean, I personally prefer that. It's just the way that I like to play. And it's a personal, like, it really does. There's no right or wrong way for these things. But interestingly, the lower that you take the time to kill, actually, the less like skill based it becomes in terms of shooting. And I can totally get the PvP guys when they say, "Oh, we want like longer time to kill means more fun fights. People don't just instantly die and all this kind of stuff." And all of that is kind of true, but it also then favors people who are better at FPS. Now, again, it's another one of these things. Neither of these like methods is more right than the other. They're just both things, right? It's like if you have a higher time to kill, it means that players who are good have the ability to turn around and shoot the guy who's not so good and kill him before he manages to finish you off, that kind of thing. And I just don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure whether that's necessarily better or worse. And again, the third point on the list of L's was aim punch as well. And it's kind of the same thing. It's like if you make the aim punch and stamina drain and all of those kind of things that we've had. I mean, aim punch has been left alone, but all the stamina drain stuff, if you leave all of those as being really punitive, then it's very heavy advantage towards the first shot person, right? The person who sees you first and fires first, and the person who hits the first shot has a huge advantage because the other person's then like blurry, can't see, they're slow, and then they get hit again and again and again, and they die. And it's almost impossible to recover. It's like, okay, well, you don't want people to be completely immobilized at the point of the first contact. But again, it's extremely frustrating for people who are less good, more good at positioning and tactics and that kind of thing, when they go like bang bang and the guy just whips around and just kills you, And it's tough because there's no right answer. There's actually no right answer to this.
Yeah.
I feel for the most part like Tarkov does it okay, but it's tough, It's tough. And the PvP chads are always going to be pushing for, the fights to feel more fun for them. I don't think it's necessarily like them wanting an advantage or anything like that. It's just like
no,
they don't want to. They don't want to just like get into a
Misconception.
fight and just be instantly one tapped, like because it feels bad. They want to have a good fight with people, and they want the fights to be a bit longer. And against somebody I think this is the thing, against somebody of the same skill level.
Yes,
you'd rather a fight be about repositioning, movement, flanking, and all this kind of stuff, rather than just like 2 one taps. Like 50% of the time they one tap you, 50% of the time you one tap them. That's the real discussion. But the collateral damage and the implication it has for the skill differences between players is also important, and I think sometimes is missed.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of things to say.
I
know. So you said earlier that the beauty of Tarkov is its slow time to kill. I would say the beauty of Tarkov is its time to kill range, because it can be, on one hand, you could be shooting at a guy with a Zabralo and you have a FMJ rounds in your freaking PPSH, and you just have to and if you don't have the knowledge of what he's wearing and what you're shooting and how that equates in the math and where you're actually pointing your gun, you are at a giga disadvantage. On the flip side, if you take a PM pistol and you catch a guy in between the eyes that ain't wearing those ricochet glasses, damn you, curse you, then you win. And it has that huge range. And I love that about Tarkov, because it's funny too. Is like, if I see at like a, I don't know, some type of like gun convention, and there's like, oh, that's a Zenit B13 rail. I was like, oh yeah, how do you know that? You served? I play video games, you know what I mean? It's like, but it's so cool with the Tarkov. It helps you get like immersed in that experience of learning all these things, building up that knowledge base within the game, and it's a really cool thing. But yeah, that's kind of the beauty of Tarkov for me, is the wide range. However, I can understand where the PvP chats are coming from, because I think there's like 2 things you probably want. Okay, one could be you're just seeking the thrill of the fight, right? So that often you're running into places kind of like, go, and you're chasing that dopamine rush of a good fight. So sometimes you get caught out, and it's funny because it has happened to me in Cycle like twice, dude. It's so anyways, yeah, and it sucks. It feels really bad. And that's when you were like, hey, I want my, like, I'm probably a better shot than this guy or whatever. Like, I want a quote unquote fair fight. You know what I mean? You want to like be able to turn around, counteract, and turn to fight. The other side of it is you may just want something, a system in place where it's more competitive, right? Like you were saying, if you increase the time to kill, um, Apex is like a good example for me because it's like really important to track people because the movement's like why I mean there's so many like source engine movement bugs glitches that are like baked into the game now. Like they tried patching some stuff, but I can't even keep up with it, dude. There's some crazy stuff nowadays. But anyways, yeah, you have to like be really good at tracking people, and hitting headshots is really important, but they're not just like standing still, they're like going up and down and vertically and sideways and doing backflips and stuff. So uh they may want it to be more like that, where there's a much more skill, you know, the skill ceiling's increased and it's more competitive and stuff, and they just can't two tap in the thorax everywhere. But the problem with that is, again, I go back to the matchmaking argument, is we don't have matchmaking, and it's going to feel really bad to players when, you know, Jim Bob over here is inertiating, flipping around, jumping off walls, just HK bunny hopping, you know, spraying you down, and, you know, meanwhile, you're just trying to like grab your pocket watch or whatever, you know, it's just, it's tough. So I digress.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. I like that take. I actually like that take because of the time skill range. That's a really important thing that I'd kind of overlooked. And then also, the lack of matchmaking is important because of the range and skill players that we have. It's a very good point. Very, very good point. And I do think for the most part, Tarkov kind of treads that, you know, that fine line fairly well most of the time. Like there's still there's a learning curve of like, why did my PRS bullets out of my AK? I shot him 16 times, and why didn't he die? And there's still an element of that for new players, but for the most part, and because a lot of people aren't wearing face shields and stuff anymore, so you shoot somebody in the face and they die, pretty much without fail, unless they're messing around with like silly helmets like I am in the minute.
Mm-hmm.
I've been wearing the LSHZ 2DTM, the one with the class 4.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Now that its
fun.
turn speeds aren't too crazy, it's I've heard it's not that bad. Like it's still kind of bad, but it's not that bad.
The bad thing is the visors are still, I don't think they changed them. I think they forgot because they changed all the helmets. I like tapped it into my calculator and then I like ramped up my mouse sensitivity because I was going Zabralo as well. But
so someone said, is the solution to make chest armor plates a tier higher, headshots to be one shots? I mean, you could do it like that. I mean, I would argue in theory you make it a bit more skill based because the headshots are like hyper rewarding. But it's like all how you do the gunplay, right? You know, if the gunplay is like everything's just a laser beam, then you know how much skill base are we talking? You know, if the gunplay is like you shoot once and the gun goes like sporadic, you know, it's like, you know what I mean, there's like a weird fine, if you have, there's probably like a bell curve to it, like in the middle. If it's like too spray, like shotgunny, you're just like shotgunning bullets out, then it's like, oh, I got the lucky head tap, I won, you know what I mean? But if it's too extreme on either end, then it doesn't really feel, I don't know, it's a tough one. But you could do it like that. There's CS is very much like that, where headshots are heavily rewarding with the AK and like Deagle, a couple other guns. But
and like for the main, that is kind of how Tarkov is.
Yeah,
right. For the most part, like headshots are very heavily rewarded, but it's like because the gun wants to jump in the air. It's like if you aim for the head to start with, it's that tricky thing. A lot of your bullets end up going into the sky instead. So if you aim at the thorax, then you're probably going to continue to hit upper thorax and maybe the head. You know, it's tough.
Yeah, and I really don't mean this in a mean spirited way, but because there's so much, there's also like, we didn't talk about ricochet chance, fragmentation. Like there's a lot of these chance-based dice rolls, RPG elements of the game, and I think what some players want is they basically want an esport Tarkov, like make this game Apex but with Tarkov mechanics, you know.
Yeah.
Like just the movement and shooting, you know what I mean. There's like a very specific list. Um, and I don't know if that's necessarily what Tarkov is going for or should be, in my opinion. But
Indeed. Indeed. I agree. I agree. Okay. Shall we, unless you have anything else specific, then I was gonna
oh, one thing, aim punch blur.
yeah.
I think that is probably one thing that is on my list. Maybe I'm just dead wrong, but I feel like the blur is probably the more like, I wonder if you remove the blur part, if it wouldn't feel so bad. Like, I think you need aim punch. Maybe you could reduce it, but I think maybe the aim punch is fine. But the blur is like, not only is your screen getting like jerked in one direction, but it's also blurred. So you can't even see, like, it's just I don't know. It's like as if you got flashed for, a second or a couple 3 frames or however.
Yeah.
I don't even know how long it is, but
Because you probably notice it like the when I noticed it, right? And it's like you notice it when you're editing because you can go back and look at these things frame by frame, and lots of people don't, right?
Yeah.
And it's like some of these fights you're looking through, and it's like the first round, like you don't really it's one of those weird things where you can't necessarily tell as easily when you're actually playing the game because you know where things were on the screen. It's a little bit like, if you're like in a room and you need to like go to the other side of the room, but you're like, locking up for the night or whatever, and you know where everything is, and you turn the light off, and it's like you almost have this like snapshot of memory of where everything is, so you can just like move through no problem. And because you saw the situation, and you know where the guy is, the aim punch and the blur, it all happens so quickly. You broadly knew where he was, and you can see the outline of him moving in the blur at a regular speed, so you can kind of continue to track them. When you're like editing, you kind of lose all of that context. So you're looking at like one frame of the aim punch, and you're like, "Damn, I can't see anything here," because like, there's no like movement information or anything like that, right? Like the blur changes from frame to frame to sort of it gives you some information that you wouldn't necessarily get just looking at one screenshot. But even still, you go back through some of these fights, and it's like the very first round hits, and because it's 3 or 4 frames worth of just blurriness, some of these fights, the whole thing happens, and it's both sides are just completely blurred out, and you're just like, God, you can't see anything. And exactly to your point, it's like, yes, maybe the aim punch is fine. Yes, you got shot, you should be punished for that. But if you remove the blur, then maybe that actually would allow the player to then recompensate for it and pull the fight back. And it's almost like it's like the comeback mechanic in Dota. You know what I mean? It's just like, right, you took a punch, now you're at a disadvantage in this firefight because your aim's being shifted and it's shifting around. But now you can try and like compensate for it yourself, because now you can actually like see where the screen went. Because if it's both, like it was in that situation that we talked about ages ago with my one where I got shot on streets, I couldn't see until I looked at it frame by frame. I actually couldn't see where my gun had been shifted to because it was so blurry and so crazy. And I was astounded I didn't kill the guy. And I was shooting, 3 centimeters across to the left on my screen versus what I thought. You can't see it because it's just blur everywhere. Even with a laser, it was just like you just can't see. And so that doesn't really give the opportunity for somebody to adjust and to come back. And I think maybe that is too much. I don't know. Like maybe it's too much to maybe just reduce the blur a bit. Like it doesn't need to be completely gone, but right now it is very. It's the Gaussian blur up to like level 50 or something. It's harsh. It's a big harsh effect. The Photoshop filters like straight over the screen.
Yeah, I mean, the more I think about it, maybe I'm wrong in that, like, no matter which way you slice it, it's too much. It's just fine. It's okay. It's okay. Like, there's not a right or wrong way to do these. Like,
yeah.
In this context, I think, because if BSG wants it to where you get shot at, you are incapacitated severely, then that's fine. That's just like people have to now play around that mechanic in the game. Because if you did, like, let's say, we did remove the blur and you just had the huge screen flick or whatever, that would sort of like add a layer of, now you got your vision back, so now you have more information. Now you might be able to, as you say, react to that, and that kind of adds to that skill ceiling. Raising the skill ceiling. All these gamer terms, but so I don't know. It's maybe it's fine. I don't feel like it is because going frame by frame, dude. Sometimes it is. It's so frustrating because it just feels like you're, and that's part of the game, honestly. But it just feels like Jesus took the wheel. Nikita take the wheel at that point because it's just like
That's the thing. You're both just randomly shooting, and
yeah,
again,
it doesn't feel great in my opinion.
Yeah.
But if that's how they want it,
I think they could turn the blur effect down by about half as a start, and that would maybe help a bit.
Yeah.
Just to see. Like, it doesn't need to be that harsh. Like, it goes from 0 to 100 in literally one frame. Like, there's no wind up or anything, and it also goes away quite quickly too.
Maybe instead of a blur, I'd be fine with the edges of my screen being reduced, like
the pain effect. Not now, where it like blurs at the edge.
Yeah. Give me
Like,
something.
It's sharp in the middle, but it's like really blurred at the sides. You lose all your peripheral. That would kind of be cool.
Yeah, because I get what they're going for, but the blur just makes it like, I don't know. You can't really, as you say, you can't see. It's so hard to make out where your gun's pointing. How your arms are positioned from the hit you just received, where they are. The Tarkov is already like a muddied looking game, so
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. All right. What was the thing you were gonna bring up?
I was just the last topic. So if there's anything else that you wanted to discuss,
one quick thing.
I was going to talk about Axel.
I did watch the video you posted of Desmond, or not you posted, but you in our notes. Yeah.
The one that I said, yeah.
And like watching it, it's like, yeah, that was perfect tracking, assuming that your gun was, not 300. What is it?
Yeah, because it's actually crazy. So this video that Desmond Pilak posted up onto Twitter, he's using the P90 and he's on streets and he's in the Pinewood Hotel and he's in one of the, what would you call it, like the Sky Bridge area.
Yeah.
And he's looking towards the main center of Pinewood, like in the outside, the courtyard, by the truck. It's really not that far away. And a dude appears from behind the truck, moving towards the right, towards the Pinewood Hotel wall. And Desmond starts shooting. He does miss the first couple of shots because he anticipates the guy to continue to the right, but he doesn't. The guy actually turns around the front of the truck and moves to the left instead. He readjusts his aim across, and he's firing literally at the guy dead on with his crosshair.
On his head, nonetheless. Like
it's nuts, right?
Yeah.
And the guy's just running, jumps. He catches him. There's one blood spatter, and then he disappears. And he just posted it to Twitter, being like, "The world needs to see this." And I was looking at it. I was like, I do wonder what's happened here. And I was like, I looked at it for probably longer than I should have, because I just thought it was quite interesting. And in the end, I came to the conclusion that I actually went there on streets with my rangefinder, and it's basically 30 meters. The distance from him to that truck. An SB193, which I presume, so I said I assume, and he was using SB193 because it's the one you can buy, right? The SS190, you have to craft it. So SB193 and a P90, it only travels. It's actually like 295 meters per second or something. Like it's one of the slowest rounds in the whole game. Which means that even if you're shooting over 30 meters, it takes like 100 milliseconds to get to the guy. So if someone's doing a full sprint right to left, and a person is only half a meter, and you're shooting at the middle, and if you're shooting at their head, for example, but even if you're shooting in the middle of their body, they only have to move 25 centimeters in 0.1 of a second for you not to hit them. And when you go back and look at the clip, the truck is just like ding, 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 ding. They got all the metallic, the bullet bouncing off the truck behind.
It's like a scene straight out of the Matrix.
It's crazy, yeah. It's like the perfect distance to just miss behind the guy on every single shot, except right near the end where you can see him start to pull ahead, and he actually manages to catch him once or twice. At the end, as someone's asking for the link, I'm just gonna paste it into the chat quickly. There it is. There you go. For anyone in chat who wanted it, and I guess can you throw it up on the YouTube?
I'm throwing it up.
But yeah, it's I don't know. It was interesting. It was interesting. I just said like cue the CS, shots 1 to 3, the meme, the classic meme.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was funny, right? It was funny just because it's like one of those things where some like awkward game mechanic means that you just get cucked for no reason, or you think like, oh no, what's this? And then you think about it and like, actually, I was amazed. I was honestly amazed that it made so much difference over such a short range.
Yeah, I was too. I mean, I haven't used, unfortunately, that like gun in general just doesn't feel great because ULACs save lives, man. I mean, you hit them in the ULAC and they can eat like multiple rounds. I think they can definitely eat a round of either 193 or 190.
I just did the test, so
It's.
Do you want to know the answer? Do you want to know the sneak preview for tomorrow's video?
Yeah, sure. Hit me with it.
So you can an SS 190 has, because it's got 37 pen, right? It's got a 55% pen chance. You can pen a ULAC with SS 190, it won't kill them.
Oh, interesting. That makes even more sense. Okay.
SB 193 has a 40% chance and a ULAC. SB 193 will kill them.
Oh, snap. And that's at what distance?
Like zero meters.
So I wonder.
So SS 190 literally cannot headshot a class 4 helmet, which is crazy. Yeah. It's not possible. SB 193 will do it until about 40 meters. It's quite a long distance.
Oh, really? What?
It has two less. It has 2 less pen.
The system is
weird. But it has 5 more damage.
Yeah, and because it's a slower round.
Slower round, it doesn't lose that damage over distance. Or the pen, right?
I can't.
So yeah, like I think like the video that I've got coming out tomorrow, I think it's a strong argument for changing the head HP to 30. I really do.
Yeah.
A lot of these things end up being weird around the 35 threshold. Like 30 would be much more clear cut. Like there's very few situations where 30 would be a problem. Like it lengthens out all the ones that are like 80 meters and it won't headshot anymore. It lengthens all of those significantly. All of these weird ones, it's like there's a whole bunch of other rounds that just like will not one tap class 4 helmets, even though their penetration says that they can.
Yeah. Okay, so basically your suggestion is targeting specifically the round penetrates and they die.
They end up on,
because bullet into your head equals dead. Whereas you're not necessarily trying to target, they ricochet or it absorbs it and they die.
That's fine. I think that's fine. So like if
you want the helmet to work still.
Yeah, I want the helmet to work. So if the ULAC bounces or absorbs the shot, fair enough.
Yeah.
If you pen the ULAC,
right,
you should be dead. In my opinion,
you
really should be dead. And there's lots of rounds that it's not the case for.
Maybe what they should do is add a new mechanic. Okay, it's called brain damage. Whenever you're under 5 HP in your head, you turn into Demirka Scav. You're just like constantly reloading your AK. Yeah, you just like constantly inspecting your gun. Just like
every action has a 75% chance not to actually happen. All your controls are inversed. Your WASD just twists a random. It's like 90, 180, or 270, depending on like
your vision's blurred.
Man. Anyway, it's interesting.
Yeah,
it's interesting
because we've talked about this before, so I'll look forward to that video.
Yeah, because it's like I finally kind of figured out a way of like doing it in a way that made sense. Because you kind of have to have an idea of like what might happen. It's basically all the work that I did on ballistics. I'm now kind of at the stage now where I'm just like, green for all bullets that deal 35 to 40 damage through class 4, stuff like that, which I was not able to do before, which now I am. And it's like, okay, now it's like pour through the data and go like, what makes sense here? What doesn't make sense? AP 6.3 now, chuck that because it's a 9% pen chance anyway, so who cares? It's junk. And then with some like distance shenanigans built in and whatnot. So yeah, it's cool. Cool.
All right. What you got now that I've interjected multiple times?
That's fine. That's actually more interesting, honestly. I'd like almost would rather talk about that. I mean, this is it's pretty short. I guess we'll just like finish up with this unless there's anything else random that you've got. But there was like a little bit of drama. I wouldn't say it's like mega drama, but just like a little bit of drama out there in the Tarkov community about cheaters, and specifically about cheaters who are streaming. And I know that Axel has been kind of on the rampage. There was I don't know whether this was related in any way, but Veritas put a post out on Twitter saying there's a prominent streamer that I'm 99% sure is cheating. Should I put a video out, and should I call them out, and should I do a thing? And people said, well, a lot of people said yes because they just want to they just want to know. But a lot of trusted people, at least to him, said like, I don't think it's worth it to do that. Basically, just tell BSG and move on with your life. So I don't know whether that's got anything to do with this, but anyway, Axel came out today with a video about streamers cheating, and it was mainly about this one guy in particular, a German guy, and I can't remember the streaming name because it's like a German word or whatever. But rather than like delving through the whole situation, you can go watch it. Go to Axel's channel and watch his video. There's the guy threatens him with some stupid, like, says, "Oh, I'm going to sue you" or whatever for some stupid thing. But the guy's in Germany. Like, it doesn't make any sense. The interesting part is about, because it was both Axel and Tiggs looking out for this guy. I think the first guy was called I'm Jug or something, and Tiggs has been asking for this guy to be banned for ages. And the second guy was this German dude, and the way that they were, I guess, like catching the cheater or whatever, is by like looking at the gameplay footage that they are showing out on their stream, and showing that because like, obviously you don't see anything, right, as the viewer, but showing that the guns that they have and the recoil that they have for those guns isn't the right recoil. And I was thinking originally, I was like, you have to be a bit careful at FOV and like all this kind of stuff. It might make a difference, but some of the stuff was like pretty egregious in the end. Like both Axel and Tiggs went to go and build various guns. So there's one which is like the SA-58 on labs, and the guy's just like shooting, and it's just like doo, 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 doo. And there's another one with an SVD, and it's just like, even if you make them in recoil versions, like they just bounce a certain amount, and it's clearly using like a no recoil or like super minimized recoil mod. But the one I think that is just like total clear cut. And again, this is something that V talked about, which is that maybe there's a bug if you do this and that and the other, then the recoil's minimized, whatever. You never know, right? You could just never know with Tarkov. But the one that seems to be the most clear cut is the RSH revolver with like a vortex on it or something, razor or voodoo, whatever it is, whatever scope. And I think it was the nice ready one, the razor. Anyway, when you fire that thing, right, it's like right up into the air. But when he's shooting it on his screen, it's almost as if, and I mentioned this to you briefly before, right? Like, it's almost as if he fires and the recoil's like almost like capped out. It's like down or something. So it's like, and then he goes to reload it like this, like down like that, and it's super, super weird. It's like so strange. So I kind of see like the logic where if you're controlling recoil as well on the other weapons, you can see the whole camera being moved. Like, the players are like moving the camera because the camera recoil separates from the gun slightly. You can see people moving the whole screen down. But like, he's not having to do that. Anyway, he's like deleted all the VODs, and there's like the only VOD is for like 7 days ago. It's the latest one available. And when you look, Axel was like, well, yeah, when you look at this video, he's got normal recoil. Like, all of his guns are normal in this video. But there's like quite a few different guns. There was like a G28. There was an SA-58. There was the RSH revolver, etc., etc. There's like a whole list. But it was kind of intriguing. It's just like, I guess you can't hide that, right? Because it's what you see on your screen as having less recoil, unless you're like really paying attention. Like, you probably wouldn't necessarily notice, because it's like you said before, are you going to learn the recoil pattern of every single gun in the game when you get down to like the meta level? If you slap all the mods on and you forgo ergo, sometimes they do look pretty low recoil, and also you can't see the guy controlling either, so you don't really know. Like, and if you're not paying attention completely, you could be well forgiven for not noticing and not realizing. But I'm not sure when this got flagged up, but I mean, I think it became a bigger problem because like the second guy at least had like participated in some tournaments and like had won some money or something as well. So it was, that's when it's like not just a video game kind of thing. Right. It's like people are competing for like real prizes and that kind of thing, and actually, that makes like a real world difference. But I thought it was kind of, I did actually think it was interesting because of like the method of how they were coming to the conclusion that the guy was cheating. It wasn't stat speculation or anything like that, or whatever. They were looking at this like what seems to be a blatant recoil hack of some kind to either
Mhm.
minimize or remove it completely. Yeah, it's just strange. Just strange. Why you do that if you're streaming?
Yeah.
I can sort of see, like, people can end up down dark paths, right? It's like,
Well, I mean, it might be more obvious if you had zero recoil, because it sounds
Yeah.
like there's still recoil present. It just looks very odd. So I'm gonna have to take a look, because I wonder if it's scripts. Like, I know Rust had a bit of a issue with the old recoil system, because it was very pattern based, and it being Unity, and I guess it being so heavily pattern based that scripts were really easy to write for the guns, and people would basically have effectively zero recoil AKs, not by any means of hacking the game, like changing values within the game code, or whatever memory modifications. You know what I'm talking about. But it was just third party software acting as the mouse, which I guess it is still cheating. It's just a different form. It looks differently. I'm sure many games, have some type, or anti cheats have some type of security measures for this type of stuff, because you could probably easily do a lot of devious things with that. But nonetheless, yeah, I have to look into it. I'm intrigued.
yeah, it certainly is intriguing. I think that was what fascinated me the most about it, was the detection method, because I've not really seen that before. And like,
Yeah,
I mean, it's pretty bad, right? If you're trying that on literally like on screen, it's like, and they had
yeah,
the same. They had the same. Actually, yeah, I tell a lie. They had the same method for the first dude, and he was the one using the SVD. And Axel, again, he went to build that gun, and he was just like, I have higher skills than these people in recoil control and stuff, so it's not that. And you can see it jumps more.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's intriguing. It's intriguing. But I did see. I can't remember, like, he was talking about it, but just with changes and stuff being, the game being like hard or whatever, like people who try to make a name for themselves, or they want to like break in and they use it to like get themselves noticed or whatever. You can kind of see, because it does normally happen with people who are like a bit smaller.
yeah.
You tend to find.
Well, they may be more likely to take risks than you're big,
That's fair, because
more
you've got, you don't
established.
have anything to lose, right?
Yeah,
Think, oh,
potentially.
maybe I make it big, or like, I get busted and found out, and then I just go back to whatever I was doing before. I guess that's true.
And one angle I could see too is, if like the cheats I've seen for Tarkov, like the very egregious ones and videos and whatnot, is the ones where like you get the characters, the little stick figures walking, and like boxes around them, and then they got their gun and like a ring around the gun, and like they shoot it, the gun doesn't move, just bullets like zap out. Like, that's super obvious when you're viewing it, but like something to like that does, like, it still looks like it has recoil, but it looks odd as you're describing it. Like, maybe your average person, like maybe they would think that their average person wouldn't catch on. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that's
Yeah.
the tenaciousness of their actions, how they reasoned it out.
Yeah, it is quite subtle. In some cases, I think, but then in other cases, you're just like, oh my god,
Yeah,
it just looks really weird.
RS12 sounds really egregious. That's the one I want to see the most.
Yeah, that one's just that's crazy. It just doesn't make any sense. It's
Yeah.
like it's like the recoil of the gun. Like the apex of the recoil begins at the like crosshair level. It's like super strange.
Yeah, see, that's because if you shoot the RS H12 with a TAC 30, I think it is, the one with the little ring and then it's got the dotted crosshairs. I think it's the TAC 30. I hate that one. I'm pretty sure it is. And because of the way your eye and head sits, and whenever you shoot it you can see the scope literally go down. You lose complete vision of the scope, so it just looks like it's so weird, because obviously the front of the barrel of the pistol is swinging up and the scope just drops down, but it's very like snappy, very snappy. Plus you got camera recoil going on. It looks all type of craziness.
So yeah, Interesting little tidbit. I only really saw it today. I saw like some people talking about it, and there's been like murmurs about like people calling out cheating streamers and stuff like this. But I think like Desmond made a post about it. Axel was talking about like, oh, I've got this video coming, and like Tiggs was talking about it on his stream. Veritas has been talking about it. I'm just like, what is going on? You know, it's like it started to become a little bit of a theme. So yeah, I figured it was worth a quick discussion at least. But
cheating is a popular topic. I hate to admit it, but it's a popular topic. Tarkov, the Tarkov
it sure
universe.
Is. It sure is.
For better or for worse, am I right?
Yeah, in some ways, like at this low level, it's almost okay, and you know, it's like keep the focus, but
right.
without being, you know, the complete inferno that it was.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, was it even like 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago? I'm not even sure now when that video came out.
I don't know.
I have to go and check. I'm gonna have to go check. It's probably more recent than I'd like to admit. Feels like a lot's happened since then.
One quick last thing, just want to get out there so I can get it off my list. DMZ goes pay to win. You guys remember DMZ, right? It was poggers.
Oh, I actually read about this. Yeah. Okay.
Dude, yeah. So the long and short of it is DMZ, the Tarkov light game mode, whatever you want to call it. It's free to play. You know, it's within the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 game. It comes with Warzone. You know what it is. You could buy operators that have DMZ exclusive perks, and it's like you start with a free backpack. You start with and it's like a permanent. Like every raid now, you have a free medium sized backpack. You don't get a small one when you die. You get it's just like I can't. I mean, I say I can't believe they did this, but like at the same time, I think it's probably not gonna hurt them. Like some people, I know some people were upset. Like I think Geeks was. I didn't watch his video on it, but I imagine he was probably upset about it. But like, I honestly think for the market that game is like geared for, because I don't think it's targeting like Tarkov people. Like it plays nothing like it's like Tarkov for toddlers in a way. I think we said before. I mean, it's fun. Don't get me wrong. I played it. I had my fun with it, but it doesn't really have that gripping, compelling gameplay for me. I mean, it's not that intense, but it's a pretty fun AI cooperative with a little tense combat action with other players mixed in, and there's some looting and stuff. It's okay, but I kind of think this is I got now that at first I was like a knee jerk reaction, but now I'm kind of like, oh, you know what? This probably makes sense. This probably like I imagine people are actually okay with this. Like, or maybe they're not okay with it, but the money won't. We'll say otherwise. You know what I mean?
The money's going to happen anyway, and then everyone will have to just live with it.
Yeah, I love to. One of the operators is like EOD edition.
Really?
Yeah, I had to look at. I think I'll pull up his Twitter. I swear it was like EOD was in the EOD specialist. He gets a medium backpack.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh my god. That's actually a funny joke. That's good.
No.
That's good.
And Darker's back on the menu, baby. The one last thing.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes and no. Yes and no. I mean, it is apparently, but the long and the short of it seems to be that you now have to go and torrent the game officially because they can't put it on the Steam store because they're being sued by Nexon, which is like what?
I know, dude. I love it, dude. They are like the most badass developers right now. Can you imagine, guys? If you want to buy our game, go ahead and just drop some Bitcoin into this wallet, and we'll send you a link to a torrent where you can officially play our game. It's like the most backwater stuff ever, dude. I love it.
Yeah, it's good. It's proper, 2004 internet kind of shenanigans going on.
Well, and people are like wilding on Twitter about it. It's so funny, dude.
Like they're giving them so much publicity because of this stuff, right? I always feel like they're going to do better because of it. Like when they come out the other side, everyone's going to be like, oh, that game where they had to put it out for torrent and stuff. Like it's just like it's an interesting story.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
It's like what do they call it? The Barbra Streisand effect or whatever. Like next time they're trying to like prevent this game because they're preventing it, now it's becoming headline worthy. So now loads of people are finding out about it. Everyone wants to know. Everyone's like, oh, I can't just buy it on. Oh, it's been deleted on the Steam store. Oh, I have to go through like this torrent. I have to like torrent it. It's like it makes it like way more intriguing. Like loads of people are going to want to get involved now. So it's completely backfiring, which is kind of funny. And often these things happen. It's a more complicated way of saying that any publicity is good publicity, you know.
Yep.
So we'll see. You gonna be playing? You gonna be torrenting it and playing?
It sounds so weird to say it like that. Yeah. I'm. I think tomorrow I'm gonna step away from the cycle and jump. The new map looks really good. They changed a lot of stuff. I'm excited. Yeah, it's God. What a yeah. I don't even.
What a time!
It's just so wild, dude. I love it.
What a time! God, it's just like all this stuff going on. I do remember just like the DMZ thing. It was so funny because I remember seeing it somewhere on Twitter and someone being just like, you know, you'd think after like Tarkov's like, you know, semi falling apart over in the corner with all cheats and stuff. This is the time that, you know, they could double down on DMZ and make it great. But instead, they're just like, hey guys, we're unveiling pay to win. It's just like, what? Oh God, it's just like everything's just going mad right now. Everything's just going nuts. And I don't know if I'm here for it. I just don't know. I just don't know anymore.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap up the cast, man. It was a good one, as always.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
Yep. Hope you all enjoyed it. And with that, we will see you all next week.
Catch you later.